live horror at its finest. Join my streaming service, Dark and Twisted TV, to watch my exclusive animated horror series, My Girlfriend Wants to Kill Me, and more. Others have joined, so what are you waiting for? Join today. Link in the description. Now on to the show. I had just moved back to New Orleans into an old house that was owned by my grandfather. He had left it to my grandmother when he died, who left it to me when she died. I was only going to live there temporarily because my plans was to flip it for a hefty profit. Before my grandmother died, she told me that I could sell it if I wanted to, because deep down inside, she knew I wanted nothing that belonged to my grandfather for good reason. Plus, there were things that went on in that house, mainly the basement, that scared me as a child. To be 100% honest, he was an asshole and treated everyone, including me, like shit. He was not a nice man, and everyone knew it. Plus, he was known for being into deep voodoo, casting spells on people to make their lives living nightmares. I guess that's why it was no surprise that someone or something killed him. Yes, that's how he died. Someone had put brain-rotting powder in his hat that caused his brain to explode. Yes, there are spells that dangerous here in New Orleans. By the way, when I was a child, my father went missing. He was presumed dead, and that's why I had to live with my grandparents, his parents. They are the ones who raised me, or shall I say, forced to raise me. As my grandfather always put it, he was very vocal when it came to that. I never knew my mother, so that's why I couldn't live with her. I had just arrived at the house and finished unpacking my things when there was a weather alert that a tornado was on its way. They said to go down to our basements for the best possible shelter. But this was not good news for me, seeing that I was terrified of basements, and this particular basement was the worst. You see, my grandfather used to lock me down there as punishment for so-called being bad. I guess his version of being bad was kids playing outside and having fun in the yard. When I was locked down there, I saw and heard things that were on the paranormal side. Come to find out, the basement was where he did voodoo. Rumor had it that he even sacrificed people down there, but that part was never proven. Anyways, there was another weather alert saying that the tornado had touched down not too far away from where I was. So I had no other choice but to go down into the basement. So I walked slowly down there as the floor creaked beneath me. And as soon as my foot hit the bottom stair, the power went out. This brought back the memories of being locked down there as a child, but I tried not to let my emotions get the best of me as I lit a candle and sat it on the table in the corner. The basement smelled of old rotting wood, and usually basement floors were made of concrete, but this floor was made of dirt. And there were wooden shelves that had glass glass jars on them, and in the jars looked to be dead, fleshy things floating in liquid. One had a pig snout, and another a cow's tongue, and one had red liquid that appeared to be blood, and inside was an eyeball. I was thinking that it probably was just an eye from a goat or something. To be honest, these were typical ingredients for spells. But there was one larger jar sitting on a higher shelf and right next to a large black book. So I climbed up on the ladder to see what was inside. And when I looked inside of the jar, there was a severed human head floating around in liquid, and one of the eyes had been cut out from its socket, and on the book that was sitting next to it bore the words, "How to eat humans for immortality." I gasped. I freaked the fuck out and fell off of the ladder, falling face down on the dirt floor. And the jar that was holding the human head fell off of the shelf, landing next to me. The stench of its rotting flesh was unbearable, and it felt as if I was about to vomit. And then it dawned on me. The face on the head was the face of no other than my own father. My father, who had gone missing when I was only 11 years old. I couldn't believe it. My grandfather had killed his own son just to give himself immortality. I stood to my feet and ran up the stairs and toward the door. But as soon as I was about to reach the door, it slammed shut, locking me down there. I screamed and banged on the door, but of course there was no one there to hear me. And then I heard a voice behind me. "You're going nowhere. You will die here, just like everyone else, including your stupid, pathetic father," said the voice of my grandfather coming from behind me. It was his spirit, and it was out for blood. I screamed and beat on the door harder. Luckily, the next door neighbor, Mrs. Nosy, heard me and let me out. I ran the fuck out of that basement and out of that house, and I never, ever looked back. After informing the police about the incident, they had discovered multiple people buried in that basement. My grandfather was indeed a dark and twisted man. My name is Zach Pryor. My wife's name is Natalie. We are flippers. For those of you that don't know what flippers are, we buy homes, condos, and apartments that are in desperate need of remodeling. Basically, these homes look like shit, but after we're done with them, they are spectacular and ready for us to sell for a hefty profit. A great business to go into to get rich. We used to be morticians, a huge shift in professions, I know. And being a flipper is honestly a lot less depressing. Anyways, we had just moved from Chicago, Illinois to Hoboken, New Jersey, and was excited to start our new lives together. We had placed our ad then waited for our first client. One night, we had received a call from our first client, an old man saying that he was interested in us buying his house. He said that it was an old mansion that he and his wife lived in for many years, but she had died a few months prior, and he was in need of selling it. The house was just too big for him to remain in alone, he said. He said that we could take a look at it the following day around midnight, which was strange for any property owner to want to meet up at such a late hour, but we agreed anyway. And that was that. The next day, when we arrived at the house, there was an old, beat-up-looking car sitting in the driveway. So we parked right behind it and exited the car. The house was not only old, as he stated very clearly on the phone, but it looked haunted and creepy as well. And I'm not even trying to be funny, but it looked like a house that Jason from Friday the 13th would live in, and where he would take his victims to torture and kill them. My wife and I are damn good flippers, but this house was almost unflippable. But we said fuck it and agreed to at least take a look at it. As we walked inside, the floor creaked so badly that I was almost certain we would fall through at any moment. So we called out to the man and asked if anyone was home. Down here in the basement, a voice said faintly, coming from below us. At first, we were hesitant due to the creepiness of the house, but then grabbed each other's hand and headed down. As we made it to the basement, there the man was, just standing there in the dark. I asked if he could turn on the lights, but he claimed there was none and that he never bothered to install them. He said he just used the natural light of the moon. The way he said it sounded rehearsed. We noticed right behind where he was standing, there was a large hole in the floor and a bag of cement that sat in the corner. My wife and I looked at each other. We knew something didn't feel right. You look familiar," said my wife to the man, who then smiled broadly, but in a creepy way. Then he said that he had a confession to make. He used to be her neighbor across the street back when she was single, and that he had been stalking her and watching her every move for the past few years. He confessed that he had been in love with her and he wanted me out of the picture in order to have her, and that's why there was a huge hole in the floor and a bag of cement. His plans were to bury me alive in that hole, then cover me up. But this man was seriously delusional if he honestly thought I was going to let him kill me and have my wife. "You're fucking crazy, you old fart. We're out of here," I said as I grabbed her by the hand and we headed up the stairs. Then, all of a sudden, bam, I was hit in the back of the head with a shovel as I found myself tumbling down the stairs. Then everything went black. But to my surprise, when I opened my eyes, I was laying on a stretcher and was surrounded by the paramedics and the police. I gasped. Come to find out, while I was unconscious, the man had placed me in the hole and was about to cover me up with the cement when my wife found his rifle on one of the shelves and shot him in the back of the head, killing him, thus saving my life. That was the most terrifying day of our lives. And that was the end of my basement horror nightmare.